This program is sponsored by I.S. Law Firm.
Welcome to Turkish American Hour. I'm Eray Tulun. Today we're talking about one of the most personal issues for our community, immigration to the United States. Rules can change fast, headlines can be confusing, and many people don't know what to trust. Our guest today is attorney Ismail Shahtakhtinski, founder and principal attorney of I.S. Law Firm. He advises individuals, families, and business owners on immigration matters. He is licensed in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and New York, and he speaks Russian, Turkish, and Azerbaijani. Welcome, Ismail. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I want to start off with a big picture question, and I want to ask, what's the overall immigration climate like right now in the States?
It's definitely a roller coaster. It's changing. It's time of constant change. It's getting more complicated. There are lots of issues, lots of new rules, new procedures constantly. We in our immigration law firm try to, look at it optimistically that we can navigate through every complication or difficulty or change. But at times it's difficult, it's hard. It's definitely a time of change, but everything can be handled.
Yeah, okay. As an outsider, it kind of seems that way, especially because there's always headlines that are, popping in the news. So for an everyday immigrant, what is actually changing? What's those important things that kind of keep on top of?
Okay. So first I want to say that headlines are loud. There is a lot of also, unfortunately, misinformation. There's a lot of panic, unnecessary panic. But of course, part of what the government is doing is actually they do want this panic to make it difficult, the entire process of immigration to the United States. But in terms of what changed practically is that you have to be more careful, you have to provide more evidence, things that you didn't have to affirmatively prove, you have to provide with more proof, you have to demonstrate, for example, good moral character affirmatively when you apply for citizenship, where in the past you only had to do it if you had a negative factor first, then you had to overcome by demonstrating positive factors. But now the rules have changed. So being more careful, more diligent, more accurate, preventing mistakes is the important part.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that. So in your practice in particular, what's the most common mistake people make before they talk to an attorney?
Well, before talking to the attorney, I don't know much about their mistakes, but what they do make mistake, well, in general, is that they don't plan ahead, they don't strategize well. Sometimes people, well, yeah, maybe that's right, before they talk to the attorney. Sometimes they take things in their own hands and they think to themselves that, okay, if I make a mistake, I'll fix it. And in real life, yes, there are many fixable mistakes, but in immigration, unfortunately, most of the mistakes are not fixable and they're there to stay, and it will come back and bite you down the road, and it will cause more issues if you make mistakes. It's not possible to erase one's history in immigration file. And so strategizing, planning, doing it right from the beginning is something that some people don't do, and that's, I think, is the big mistake.
Okay, I mean, that's important, of course, and that kind of flows into the next topic of realistic legal pathways for someone to live and work in the United States. Starting with, when someone tells you, I want to move to the United States and work, what options do you usually discuss first with them?
Well, first I ask my questions. So I always reverse the question, and if somebody says, okay, what is the most realistic way for me to immigrate and live in the U.S., I tell them, what do you want to do in the U.S.? Imagine you have your permanent residency card in the United States. What will you do in the United States? And then they tell me, okay, I want to get more education. Okay, then in my mind, okay, maybe student visa may be an option. If they say, I want to create a business and open my own business in the United States, or I am a businessman, I have my business in my country, I want to come to the United States and open a branch or affiliate for the business, then maybe an E2 investor visa, L1 visa may be appropriate. But in general, there are many different ways of immigrating into the US, and it always boils down what is suitable for each potential applicant, for individuals, potential clients that I'm consulting with. So I ask questions and determine, but yeah, there is just no one easy way of immigrating into the United States. It depends on the specifics of your case, what you're planning to do, and what best suits you.
All right, that makes sense. So and then flows in again. Usually people just hear about H-1B visas. That's the normal go-to. But what are some others, like 1 to 2 examples of other potential pathways that people can take besides the H-1B for working in the States?
Mm-hmm. You've probably noticed I'm smiling because H-1B visas have been all over the news recently, right? So it's unheard of. The filing fee for the H-1B visa has been increased to $100,000. Just last month or 2 months ago, that's what was announced. So H-1Bs, unfortunately, are getting much more difficult. Of course, they're saying that H-1B visas are being abused. That's the reason. Now they're going to do a system based on the qualifications of the applicants and the beneficiaries, and that's good too. But unfortunately, many businesses will suffer because of the lack of the qualified employees that they were able to sponsor. In fact, 65,000 of the bachelor's degree plus 20,000 with the master's degree, 85,000 total H-1B employees was not enough in general. In fact, they had to increase the number, but they're now limiting it, and it's going to be much more limited. But of course, there's been some abuse, but that doesn't mean that they should shut down the entire H-1B system. But enough about H-1B. In terms of other types of work visas, there are many different types of work visas. Again, the question boils down to what are the bases of immigrating. So, for example, one can sponsor themselves for permanent residency or for O1 visa based on their talents. If you have extraordinary talents, if you are, to say it in a layman's language, if you're really good at what you do, then you may qualify for the talent visa or permanent residency based on talents. There is L1 intra-company transferee visa for managers or executives or specialized employees of international companies, meaning a company that has a branch or affiliate in the United States and in a foreign country. There is E2 investor visa. There is I visa for journalists, for people working in media. So there are different types, but again, it boils down to the specific circumstances, what the specific individual or business wants to do, and what they can qualify for.
Perfect. Okay. And then next, of course, students are a big topic. So what are some top rules that students should be following to protect their future options?
Well, number one mistake, I will start with that students make, is that they don't follow diligently the rules of maintaining F1 student status. Number one tip on the other side for the students, I would say, is to keep close contact with the designated school officials, also known as DSO, abbreviated. But so keeping in touch with them, informing them. The most frequent thing happens is some student gets sick and they didn't inform DSO in time, and their CVIS gets terminated. Then next thing you know, that they lose their status, and it's really hard to reinstate. So keeping in touch with the DSO, following those rules, attending enough, taking enough credits. I frequently see foreign students by mistake taking online courses rather than registering in person and then losing their student status this way. It becomes really difficult, if not impossible, to reinstate them. And you also have very limited period of time for the reinstatement of your status.
Okay, very helpful. And next, let's get into the topic of travel and delays. Everybody likes to travel, and people, always, there's delays in the process, of course. And, can someone travel while their case is pending, and when should they avoid traveling? When is like sometimes where not the best time to travel, you should just completely avoid it, you know?
Sure. So depends on the type of application. So as I understand the question is if you applied for an immigration benefit, you filed for change of status, you filed for adjustment of status to permanent residency, or you filed for asylum or any other kind of benefit, can you travel during the pendency of your case? Number one, it depends on the type of application. Number two, you need to obtain prior authorization before you're traveling. So, for example, if you file for a change of status to permanent residency, also known as adjustment of status, you are supposed to remain in the U.S. because if you're changing your status and you leave the U.S. in between, then you lose the status that you were changing. So logically, you're basically breaking the chain and you abandon this. But you can apply and get what's called advance parole, permission to travel, where your travel will not be counted as if you never left the United States. It will not be counted as a foreign travel, but you will be allowed to leave the U.S. and be re-paroled back. So there are many different, even with the asylum application, when somebody applies for asylum in the United States, refugees waiting for their status, there is a way to get urgent humanitarian travel permission, which is called advance parole, so that they can travel during the pendency of the case and successfully return to the U.S. So it's all possible. But many people probably heard of the travel bans, and that's where I guess this question comes from. Travel bans, there was a Muslim ban, now there is travel ban for some countries. That doesn't apply to this necessary situation where you have a pending application. During the first Trump presidency, there was this famously known as Muslim ban, this travel ban, but it was immediately lifted by the federal courts. So for a brief period of time, those individuals who had pending applications and left the United States to return back, they were stuck abroad. But as soon as the federal court struck that order of the Trump administration, that ban was lifted and they were allowed in.
Okay. And then on the topic of delays, a lot of Turkish applicants, when they're interviewing for this process, they have to go to Ankara and do their interviews there in person. But then they face delays in hearing back in their process. What are some common reasons why there might be delays in the process of hearing back, and kind of maybe ways of mitigating those delays?
So the most common delay now, and the lengthy delay, is what's called administrative processing. And it's very broadly used by the consulates, where this term administrative processing, they write 221G, refusal, where basically any question that comes up, anything that they want to investigate or to review more, they put it under that umbrella of administrative processing, and then the case gets delayed. Unfortunately, the options are very limited. So the consulates being abroad and the individuals who applied for those visa being located abroad, they have limited resources to be able to put pressure on the consulates. But it also depends on the type of visa. I mean, if it's an immigrant visa, the petitioner is a U.S. citizen in the United States, then they have some leverage to push on the consulate to get to issue. They can contact the congressmen, senators, congressional representatives, or do something in the United States where someone who is, for example, in Turkey, and they're waiting for this, and the consulate is delaying unreasonably. They do have one resource. There is a process called mandamus action, where you can file a lawsuit in the United States in a federal court, forcing the consulate to make the decision. It's limited, but it's possible in the non-immigrant visa context as well. But usually that comes into play approximately 6 months or more after the delay. And the federal courts are getting more and more lenient towards letting more delays. So in the past, as soon as it hit the 6-month mark after the interview, we were able to file that lawsuit. But now in some federal courts, they're asking for wait for 1 year or more, because in the big picture of things, all of the delays in general, all of the chaos in the immigration system, significant delays in processing of all cases together, it basically pushes everything further down, including the ability to file the lawsuit in federal court for a mandamus action. So there are some limited resources, but if you end up in this situation, I would recommend to consult with an immigration attorney and see what options you have to put pressure on them. Now, I do want to mention that if it's an investor visa, for example, E2, and citizens of Turkey are one of the best most suitable for E2 visa. That's if you create a small business. You have leverage because you have invested money, you created business in the United States, and you can contact not only congressional representatives, symbolic inquiries, but you can also contact the Chamber of Commerce, the mayor of the town. You can put pressure on the consulate if they're unreasonably delaying and your business is suffering. That means it's hurting the U.S. economy.
Okay, now, thank you for that. And before we close, since we have you here, let's talk about some practical steps that our viewers could take, potentially this week. Starting with, it's an overwhelming process, of course, but what are the first 3 steps that someone could take right now?
So if we're talking about someone in general who is planning to immigrate into the U.S. or somebody who is in the United States and is maybe temporarily thinking about legalizing and permanently remaining in the United States, well, I don't know about 3, but the first step is to do your homework. Many would expect that I would say consult with an immigration lawyer, but no, I think you should do your own homework first so that you know what you want to consult, what you want to ask from the immigration lawyer. And that's another thing that I always tell my consultees that schedule consultations with me. When they start with that broad question, I tell them, okay, here's what we're going to do. You will go and review our website, look at different types of visas and so on. There is no point for me, for example, to explain to you a visa for religious, leaders, right? Or visa for journalists if that's not your field. So look and see what is, even if you're determined what type of visa, you're talking about national interest waiver, or you have extraordinary talents and you want to apply for permanent residency, you still want to do some, at least on the surface, homework, see what you understand, what you don't. And then the second step would be schedule a consultation with a lawyer. Well, I'll go to the third step as well. So the third step would be taking realistic actions after you have the consultation. So, if let's say you consulted with an immigration lawyer and you think that you do want to start your own business in the United States and apply for E2 investor visa, that's very beneficial, again, for the Turkish citizens. That's the easiest way for Turkish citizens to enter the United States, to be able to work, bring their family. And then down the road, they can consider applying for permanent residency through also business ways or different ways. But realistic step in that direction would be to plan what type of business. So, everybody wants to start a business. Not everybody. I take it back. But many people say that I want to start business, but they don't have realistic goals and specific targets. So that would be my first advice. So, my third advice is try to be specific. Try to put down, at least for yourself, in your thoughts. Nowadays we have AI that can help you create a great business plan, right? So talk to the AI, ask questions, brainstorm what you want to do, and plan, and then talk to the lawyer again, and then start working with the competent, experienced immigration attorney in the direction of your goals.
Of course. So when someone's doing that homework, though, they're going to be online, they're going to be asking AI. Of course, there might be false information, misinformation. What would be one myth that you want to just stomp out, that you want to eliminate right here, right now, regarding immigration?
Regarding immigration, I would say one myth that I hear over and over is the conspiracy theories that the consulates have specific instructions on denying visas in general for one or another country. At least until recent times, it wasn't the case. But now, for the first time in the history, under the Trump administration, we just got recently the 39 countries that Trump designated as suspect countries, right? So Now, all of that, which I've always been saying, for example, diversity visa lottery, right? That unfortunately they terminated, and that's actually how I immigrated in the United States 25 years ago. I was selected through diversity visa lottery. So unfortunately they terminated. But the diversity visa lottery, there's always been this hidden conspiracy that there's, the thoughts of conspiracy theories that they're selecting certain individuals from certain countries, that they're limiting from one country from another. That was not the case up until recent times, at least until so that myth, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a myth anymore, but the other myth is you don't need an immigration. I'm not trying to, advertise immigration lawyers. I'm, prejudicial in that way, but thinking that you can do it yourself. Often clients, when they consult with me, they ask, do I have to have a lawyer, or do you think I can handle it myself? And I tell them, look, do I have to hire an engineer to build a house? Do I have to go to a doctor for medical treatment? Who knows? Maybe I can learn how to do it, but I don't want to make mistakes in such an important thing for your life. So similarly here, I mean, when you're applying for immigration benefit, there are so many nuances, so many hidden traps. That's the reason it's always advisable to use the professional. But yeah, I mean, there are some steps that you can do yourself. So that myth also, is I'll do it myself and then hire an immigration lawyer only if I get into trouble is one of the biggest mistakes.
Of course. And so you gave those 3 steps earlier, but just one piece of advice, one thing that you would leave our viewers with today, what would it be?
Just do it. If you're planning to immigrate, just start taking action.
All right, that's a good one to end on. So, Ismail, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Where can our listeners and viewers follow your updates and potentially contact your offices?
So we have been in practice for 20 years now, and we are an immigration law firm, I.S. law firm. We're in Fairfax, Virginia. Our website is islawfirm.com, very easy. And we also, if you look us up on YouTube, so we have a YouTube page, we have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So we post there frequent updates about the changes, how to do things, explanations, and all kinds of blogs, the posts. So you can follow us there and you can contact us anytime.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you again to our viewers for watching Turkish American Hour today. And goodbye and hoşça kalın.
Thank you. Hoşça kalın.